Pentagon.
You think that he was in a position to know about this?
Yeah, he would have been. He would have been speaking to the individuals who were taking part in these investigations. You're showing some of those clips just now that potential incursions by objects controlled by a non-human intelligence, potentially. We're not saying alien necessarily, but something non-human.
Seems a bit far-fetched to me, Andrew. I'm a skeptic.
When people say skeptical, I think as a species, we're relatively new in terms of what we do in space. But right now, we've got a robot on Mars that drives about and has a little helicopter drone that every so often comes up, flies about away 10 feet from it to collect samples and comes back. Now, a species a couple of hundred years down the line from us would have far better technology than that. So who's to say what we're encountering aren't just really advanced probes from something else that's just slightly ahead of us in the technological scale? I don't think that's too far stretch of the imagination.
When you do see things like what we just saw there, which was made public, the New York Times did a big expose on all of this, and actually, you know, the world didn't end. We weren't all outside fighting each other for scraps of food and burning down the nearest Lidl, were we? We just thought, oh, that's quite cool.
I think now we have to look at it and maybe take a step back, look at the people coming out now, talking about UFOs and thinking, is there something to this that we've maybe been overlooking?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, I'm Sophia Wenslow with your headlines at 11 o'clock. The Prime Minister will tell the people of Britain there is light at the end of this tunnel, but they must first join a shared struggle through tough short-term pressures. In his first Labour Party conference speech as Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer will say he wants to build a new Britain, but he will warn there are no easy answers and he could not offer false hope about the challenges ahead. Meanwhile, Rachel Reeves has accused the last Conservative government of choking off investment and suffocating growth and living standards in her speech at Labour's conference in Liverpool today. But not before she faced a protester.
We are still selling arms to Israel.
He accused Labour of selling arms to Israel before being removed, with shouts of Free Palestine heard from backstage. Getting back on track, the Chancellor declared Labour is a party that represents working people, not a party of protest, earning her a standing ovation. She went on to promise to repay the trust of voters and set out what her first budget on the 30th of October will focus on.
So it will be a budget with real ambition. A budget to fix the foundations, a budget to deliver the change that we promised, a budget to rebuild Britain. And my budget will keep our manifesto commitments. Every choice we make will be within a framework of economic and fiscal stability. You'd expect nothing less. We said we would not increase taxes on working people, which is why we will not increase the basic, higher or additional rates of income tax, national insurance or VAT. And we will cap corporation tax at its current level for the duration of this Parliament.
To the Middle East now, where 492 people have been killed and more than 1,000 left wounded in the most widespread wave of Israeli airstrikes against Hezbollah in the last year. Residents in southern Lebanon reported receiving calls this morning telling them to evacuate, with warnings also broadcast across Lebanese media. Meanwhile, Israel's Prime Minister has sent a message to the Lebanese people saying his country's war is not with you, it's with Hezbollah. In other news, a mother and daughter have been jailed for more than 3 years in total for taking part in a riot while out walking their family dog. 52-year-old Amanda Walton and 24-year-old Megan Davison admitted violent disorder during disturbances in Middlesbrough on the 4th of August. Video played in court showed Davison jumping on the roof of a red car while Walton was seen throwing something. The judge jailed Walton for 22 months and her daughter Davison for 20 months. And parts of the UK are underwater after more than a month's worth of rain fell in just 24 hours. Flood warnings have been issued for areas across Northamptonshire, Bedfordshire and London, causing widespread travel disruption, school closures and damage to homes. A yellow warning remains in place in some areas where they're expecting 120 millimetres of rain today, with more rain and warnings expected throughout the week. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, our first look at tomorrow's newspapers with the help of three professional comedians. I'm always told to emphasise that professional aspect of our credentials. I'm Simon Evans. Tonight we have on 2 coffees, Josh Howie, and 4 hot chocolates, Jojo Sutherland.
I'm addicted to them.
Are you?
Oh, I love
the
them.
ones from the machine?
Yeah, they're great.
It's funny how a little perk can make all the difference, can't it?
I think I am on my 4th.
We're here late at night under
was
strip
counting.
lighting. It's a dystopian environment in many ways, but a hot chocolate will get you through.
Solves everything.
Excellent. Let's take a look at those front pages. We have the Telegraph, light at the end of the tunnel, PM tells Britain, and the notorious donor there striding in. The Union boss says we'll seize control of the UK economy on the front page of the Daily Mail, same picture. Guardian, PM vows to end gloom as Labour seeks to lift spending restrictions, and an illustration of Hezbollah taking one on the chin. Sun, Nick's strictly SOS. Not sure what that story is about. That's a recent arrival. The Times, Labour to crack down on benefit fraudsters. And finally, The Star, it's Booty McBootface after the sudden floods. Those were your front pages. So, starting us off with the Daily Mail, Josh.
Yeah, there's a big story there, but at the very top they've got, the day I discovered my husband had a love child just like Dave Grohl.
Wow.
See page 21. I turned to page 21. Let's just say the guy does not look like Dave Grohl.
Dave Grohl is not in the frame for this one.
Yes, no, exactly. This is a guy who got very lucky that he had a love child.
Yeah.
And his reasons why.
I feel bad for Dave Grohl because he's the nicest guy in rock, isn't he? And
Well,
he's
not
like-
anymore. He's cheated on his
Exactly.
wife.
He's put one foot wrong.
I don't think there was his foot he put wrong. It was something else he put somewhere. Anyway, the big one is, yes, we have the Labour conference. So this is the Daily Mail's take on it. Labour conference bombshell. Union boss will seize control of UK economy. Now, it's not really a bombshell because it's just RMT boss Mike Lynch just being Mike Lynch. He's just saying, like, yeah, we're going to take control. We're going to have a union-led country. Just because he wants it doesn't make it so. There's no actual plans for that to happen. Of course, that's what he wants to happen, but it's Keir Starmer and Labour don't.
Do you think, though, it's going to rattle the windows and shake the walls of Middle England, this fear that we're going back to the 1970s? Because it's kind of in the air a little bit.
Well, this is what they've been trying to push the entire time, but there's no actual proof of any of it going through. Whilst Rachel Reeves made her speech this today or yesterday, whenever you're watching this, the nurses sort of rejected the offer of about 5%.
Yeah.
You do kind of go, the train drivers got a 15% offer and was accepted. You go, they got 15%. Nurses should be getting more. Let's split the difference and take away.
Or train drivers should be getting less.
Or just no train drivers.
Or maybe the fact that King Charles was given a 50% pay rise at the amount of 45 million.
He's only one person.
He's just one person.
He's just one. He can get whatever he wants.
Oh, yeah.
But
maybe that has something
He
to do with
probably
it.
doesn't spend it either, does he? That's the trouble. It just kind of gets reinvested back into the biscuits.
Giving it to that one biological child. But it seems to be also somewhat fear-mongering going on there.
What have we got on a less fear-mongering note then, Jojo? The Telegraph?
The Telegraph is basically light at the end of the tunnel.
Already? We haven't even entered the sun
we
yet.
have got light at the end of the tunnel. Keir Starmer has told Britain. I mean, I hope the light from the end of the tunnel isn't the light from an oncoming train.
An oncoming train, traditionally.
It could
Isn't
be
that normally said just before you once are actually in a tunnel? Isn't it that you've been traipsing through a tunnel for a while?
Yes.
Rachel Reeves is about to lead us into that tunnel.
Yes, we haven't gone into the tunnel yet, so there's no chance of seeing a light.
No, it's an odd thing to say at this point.
We don't know how long the tunnel is.
No, that's the key, isn't it?
How long is a piece of string?
They have been phenomenally gloomy, though, haven't they, in their messaging? I mean, they've really lent into the kind of brace yourself.
Brace yourself, short-term,
This could be what they're doing. They're going, right, let's do it now, get all of that stuff out of the way, set up our excuses, and then suddenly when they chuck us a little morsel, we're like, thank you so much.
I know,
thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it is. It's that kind of go, oh, it's going to be awful, it's going to be awful. Oh, it wasn't that bad. But we don't know. But it is that thing of, you know, the thing that's been hitting the headlines the whole time is the winter fuel payments and that being taken away. But I don't know why we're not concentrating as well on how much they are spending in other areas in terms of, you know, Keir Starmer has said $3 billion a year to Ukraine for as long as it takes, 84 million to the Middle East and Africa.
Yes, developing nations and so on.
So we're spending a lot of money to help other people, which is admirable, but not if you're going to do it at the expense of our own citizens.
We do have a couple of the spending plans, but I take your point, absolutely. And Ukraine just seems to be a given now, doesn't it? There's no discussion on that from either party. There's no one you could vote for.
Yeah, but also the fact that you make a statement like $3 billion a year for however long it takes is, again, how long is the tunnel?
Yeah,
so
maybe that's the light that he sees at the other end.
Yeah, I mean, the tax burden is already at a 70-year high. They're talking about more taxes. Yeah. So really, this is going to be his...
But not taxes on working people.
Well,
usually. This is only going to be
but the taxes that come around through the back door and whatever. But he is saying some of the right things, which is, you know, to improve the NHS and...
But he's not giving any money to the NHS until the reform plans are in place.
So it's like, at least... You kind of go, well, at least they want the country to be better. We haven't got there yet, but at least there's a...
Josh,
there's a lot of saying things.
But there's another big story we've got to move on. Pubs may have to call last orders early.
Stop it.
This is more nanny stateness. And what this all comes down to is a report that they're now trying to save money by, as you were just saying here, preventative stuff. So obesity... alcohol, and one of the things is
cigarettes. But they're clamping down on smokers and alcohol, and that's the thing. And huge story being, because preventable deaths. Yes. But the combined preventable deaths from smoking and drinking don't even touch the sides of preventable deaths from obesity.
Nothing touches the sides.
You know, we've done this sort of sugar tax and all the rest of it, which...
Are you sure that's right? Alcohol and tobacco together is not remotely...
700,000 preventable deaths from alcohol and smoking combined, where 1.2 million deaths from obesity.
That's why notice how svelte she is, but how much she drinks and smokes.
It's really overtaking it.
Oh, no, I've checked.
I mean, I think worldwide, obesity and smoking are sort of neck and neck, but I guess in this country, with the extraordinarily high taxes and so on they've had for a while, and education programs...
But I'd just like to say, at the very end of the article, it then says, the government says there are no plans to do that.
It was another one of those?
It was one of those all the way through. Although they did say the silver lining would be that there would be less domestic abuse if the pubs close earlier.
It's a recommendation from some quango or something.
Well, actually, no, it's saying it's coming from another part of the government, but the government out. But what they also say...
Somewhere inside the house.
Yeah, is they said, since 2019, alcohol-related deaths have risen a third. Well, what happened in 2019?
Oh, yes.
You know, come on, guys.
What happened in 2019?
It's not because pubs suddenly opened longer in 2019.
We were allowed to decide how large a measure of whiskey was at home.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, so it was actually really, if they want to lower alcohol-related deaths, keep pubs open longer. That would suggest the evidence would be opposite.
Don't let people drink at home.
But they're also saying, even that bold assertion that they say currently 40% of deaths are avoidable deaths, deaths from avoidable causes, will rise to 60%. It's still kind of deceptive, isn't it? Because people are going to die sooner or later. You're only delaying it, and it may be that those deaths come at a more appropriate point in life.
Well, there is an argument to be said that people who die from preventable causes like smoking and drinking will be less of a pressure on the NHS because they won't get old.
What's got the Times?
Times, yeah, a few things. Well, first of all, Labour to crack down on benefit fraudsters. There's a new bill that Starmer's putting through. This is quite interesting. They're going to let people investigate anyone they suspect of defrauding benefits, but let them investigate their bank accounts so you can sort of see if they've got any other income. I'm surprised that that hasn't been going on anyway. It seems that would be a bit of a no-brainer.
So that make you nervous?
Totally.
The fact that people can just, pop into your bank account. I mean, it sort of is surveillance through the back door.
Yeah.
And under the guise of, oh, yeah, but these terrible people that are cheating us.
We all used to be a lot more sort of relaxed. I remember when Arthur Smith in the 80s used to compare a comedy gig and he'd go, good evening, my name's Arthur Smith, unless you're here from Balham DHS, in which case I'm Daphne Fairfax. It was the most famous opening line. Everyone was quite relaxed about it.
But that's still, well, that is a problem.
So there was another line about no photographs for security reasons, social security
reasons.
That's
right. Oh, my goodness. Well, that is I haven't heard that for a while.
Professional comedians.
Those are the front pages sorted. In the next section, we have the return of the Breakfast Club. Ed Miliband is breaking out the candles again, and what Donald will do if he doesn't become dictator next year. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Stay-at-home dads, good or bad?
I personally think when you just have a baby, your hormones are all over the place, you're breastfeeding, to go back to work, I feel personally it's a big old thing. And I think babies really need their mums. On the other side, if a stay-at-home dad was a stay-at-home dad for years, I would also say, well, come on now, the children are in school. What's the issue? Why can't you go back to work?
It's really interesting because my husband's been a stay-at-home dad for 6 months and is working part-time. We both work part-time now. And that was always the choice that we were going to make. And it's been the best thing ever for my family. My husband and my daughter have the most incredible bond. He's much more practical, playful, and a better problem solver than me.
I mean, the problem I see, Annette, with all of this is that you do get a lot of women who say, we don't want the stereotype. We don't like the stereotypes. And when men say, well, actually, I want to be the parent staying at home and looking after the child, it's frowned upon. So you can't have it both ways.
I wouldn't say that's a long-term stay-at-home dad. And also, we're talking about actually dads should look after their children, and we shouldn't be praising them and say, oh, they're underappreciated for changing a nappy. That's their duty.
I think it takes real guts as a man to decide that you're going to give up those things that society deems so highly, even if it's for a short time.
Why is it then, Annette, that you say your dads should go back to work?
I read an article about a dad who was a stay-at-home dad for 15 years, pursuing his hobbies and fitness and all that. Now, I just don't think that's fair.
GB News, the People's Channel.
The Britain I grew up was the most peaceful, gentle society that has ever existed. That has been destroyed.
Opinion polls show immigration is the #1 concern to the British public. Are you proud to be British?
Yeah, I'm ever so proud.
My name is Stephen Edgington, and in this documentary, I want to find out how Britain became a nation of immigrants. Immigration, the truth. Available at gbnews.com.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliners. I'm still Simon Evans, and despite their best efforts, we still have Josh Howie and Jojo Sutherland with us. So, Josh, let's start with Tuesday's Daily Mail. If you like the Oasis reunion, you're going to love Rachel Reeves' latest announcement. She's reviving 80s Brat Pack movie, The Breakfast Club. Amazing.
Great film, Yeah, exactly. Although I can't figure out what The Breakfast Club is, but we'll get to that. Rachel Reeves says £315 million free Breakfast Clubs programme for primary schools will begin in April. So this is part of what we were talking about a bit earlier. Stick in the carrot, we're coming through the tunnel. She's saying austerity's over, we're going to start spending some money now, actually doing stuff. And this is the first thing that seems to be an announcement.
This is the carrot.
So, yeah, we're sort of let's get those kill all the old people, and let's focus on the
kids.
Feed the kids instead. So I don't know what a breakfast club... I think it means that they can go to school a bit earlier so that parents can get off to work.
It's a free meal.
And a free meal, and that makes a big difference. And certainly in terms of people's attention, it's been shown that that does have a massive impact on certainly kids who don't have...
Yes, parents who give a damn.
Yeah, so 300 million, like for a countrywide scheme, that seems like a bargain. Why not feed the kids? Already other companies, other investors and interested are sort of saying, no, we would now scrap the 2-tier limit and whatnot. It's never good enough, but at least it's something.
Yeah. What do you think, Trudy?
Well, I didn't realise that the Breakfast Club had been scrapped. So, I mean, I think it is a brilliant idea, and certainly for parents that do have to go to work earlier, and, you know, the Breakfast Club and the Ready Break adverts, remember them? So they can get a little heat as well.
Yes.
So there's a glow of red around.
Is that how you picture them?
But, yeah, children with a little red sort of glow around them. But I think a Breakfast Club is a great idea, and breakfast is an important meal, and it does stimulate the brain and helps you focus.
There's no question in my mind whatsoever that children should have breakfast before they go to school in the morning.
100%.
The only question is whose job is it? But I suppose I'm broadly speaking, I think I'm behind it. There is that famous study where they said that the parents were failing to pick up their kids after nursery on time, and so they sent out a message saying if you fail to collect your child before 4 p.m, you will be fined $5. And immediately parents just stopped doing it because they regarded that $5 as well spent. They were more than happy to be able to pick up their kids at 4:30 and get an extra half an hour of childcare for $5.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a little bit like that.
Yeah.
I just wonder how many parents will go, great, that's another job off my to-do list.
Yes, that saves you
just
having
drop
to get
the kids
up
off
earlier.
at 7:30 and they can have breakfast at school. Maybe that's fine. I don't know.
It would be good if they could also do, like, sleep club...
babysitting club.
And just everything, and just see them, pick them up Friday.
Reassure about the monster under the bed club.
Just have all clubs, take them for the week.
Just leave
that's
them
my
at
idea.
school day and night. Oh, boarding schools, we already have them, remember?
That's it. Well, if it's a slippery slope back towards boarding schools, I'm in favour. Jojo, Ed Miliband continues on his one-man mission for a green Britain, one vicious authoritarian and economically ruinous measure at a time.
Yes, well, landlords are facing a ban on renting homes that are not energy efficient. So this is in the Times. So they will be banned from renting out the properties unless they meet minimum energy efficient standards, which at the moment I think is level C. They want them all to be above C and above.
OK.
Which,
like my GCSEs.
Great, fantastic. But what I want to know, if they have the ability to ban landlords from renting homes because they don't have an energy efficient certificate, how come why don't they ban landlords from renting homes that cost too much money, or regulate rents in terms of... Do you mean if they can make that level of you're not allowed to rent your home unless you have this certificate, you're not allowed to rent your home if you charge too much for it?
Well, I suppose one thing is the market setting a price, although I think Labour are intending to interfere with that, but that is at least a widely viewed efficient system for discovering the correct price where supply meets demand. The other one is making sure that you're selling something that meets like trading standards, like you have a car that you know, the wheels don't fall off.
No, absolutely. But the cost to landlords, they reckon, is going to be about 25 billion, which you just know that if they've got to spend that much money on improving their house and proofing them and insulation, all that kind of stuff, then that is then just going to be put onto the rents and it's going to be increasing.
Oh, it's going to be an increase in rent.
Yes, of course it is. The landlords are not going to...
Oh, if they start from scratch, I expect.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're saying there's going to be a maximum of £10,000, which actually means that the people who are going to be making up the difference will be the taxpayer.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it seems unfair that people are forced to pay. The rents are out of control and they're having to pay for a bad product.
Well, you've got the two things, haven't you? Because obviously it's Ed Miliband, so what he cares about is net zero. But also there is the who accepts the burden of keeping a room warm when there's massive cracks in the window frame or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a slightly two different issues. Right?
And there are some more issues, which is, do they have the people necessary to do the work?
Yeah.
That 25 billion extra into the economy could be part of the builder's boom, so that could come back in tax, i.e. make sure you pay it not in cash, so it benefits everybody. And the other thing is that part of reaching this grade C is that it's not just sort of having double glazing, they're also talking about heat pumps, and they're trying to push that heat pump legislation through, and that could be a sort of by the back door way of going up to the C, is like putting in this heat pump. And that's
I'm
part
not
of
sure
this.
about
as
the
well.
heat pump. We discussed heat pumps yesterday.
No, I'm just saying that's part of their plan, I reckon.
The Guardian now, Josh. The Guardian says Scottish Labour are trying to put clear red water between themselves and their southern neighbours.
Yes, so this is interesting. Yes, Scotland could extend winter fuel allowance, the Scottish Labour argues in The Guardian, and because they, devolution laws that are coming in, they'll be able to say who's going to get this benefit or not. Obviously, for all the UK, it's been cut, but they want to basically allow pensioners who have any kind of benefits to also get this money. Right. Which is not the way it is now. Because there's a good chance that the Labour will win, they'll beat the SNP out of local government, and this is a big threat to them, this happening. It's all a bit of a moot issue, I think, because it's a necessary issue because obviously Scotland's colder, they've got longer winters, but at the same time, they don't actually have any pensioners. They don't live long enough to have an impact.
I did love the fact that the Scottish electorate is volatile and could easily not vote Labour. Yes, we are. But it's that thing as well that, Scotland always likes to say the opposite of whatever England does. I mean,
yes. Well, they also like to be more generous as well, though, don't they? Generally, they do regard themselves as being having this social conscience. They pay for education
with English people's money.
Yeah.
Oh, but this is where we scored a home goal, or an own goal with the general elections.
Yes.
We sort of gave SNP a kicking.
Yeah.
So, but all that did was then reduce our
Horribly.
seats in Westminster.
I know.
People didn't realise that the effect. So we don't have as big a voice in Westminster now because
terrible unintended consequence.
Yes.
I've been saying they were the secret weapon for a long time.
Yes, well, exactly. But I think some of Scotland thought they were getting a Labour government in the last general election for Scotland.
That's possibly true. Staying with The Guardian, Jojo, Angela Eagle says overt racism has been caused by top Trumps, I think. Is that right?
Top Tories and Trump.
Oh, top Tories and
yes,
Trump, sorry.
Top Trump, top Tories. Although it wasn't mentioned by the name, who was it? Was saying that she asked former ministers who were referring to, she told The Guardian, I won't name them, but you can probably guess. So
do you think she means top Tories as in, like, senior Tories or, like, their top?
Top. Like top. Hey, cool man. Yeah.
I think she probably means like top hate figures in the Labour Party, doesn't she?
Well, we don't know what she means because she won't say. So this is the problem we always have.
I don't know anyone.
So we're guessing that it's Trump. But
I can understand why they might say Trump has created a certain amount of rhetoric which fed into the riots or whatever. You could argue the case, but I can't think of any Tories that have done, unless she means like Suella Braverman saying that we have to stop the boats. But I don't think that's like.
I think they're talking to any of like.
Is that who it is?
Yeah, I think that. I think there are other people. Any Tories who have talked about immigration.
Yeah. If the subject of that comes up, then that is seen as overt racism, the very fact that you mention it. So, it's like everything. Toxic discourse against asylum seekers gave yellow flashing light to racists. So I didn't know we had a lighting.
No, I did yellow flashing light.
Yellow flashing
what
light.
is that? There's like, make your own mind up. It's a bit like late at night.
Sounds a bit racist to me. Yeah. Yellow flashing light.
They have those in America, don't they? Where the traffic junctions in between midnight and 5 a.m. they're just sort of flashing, and you just use.
This is actually a really serious story. Angela Eagle, she's the minister in charge of irregular migration. Now, this is their new term or
irregular.
This is their new term or euphemism. It's not illegal immigration anymore.
No, it's
irregular.
Like territorial.
Yeah, exactly. And it's ironically the opposite of what she's saying.
Yes.
She's saying that people who dare talk about migration, particularly Tories and Trump or whatever, they're all far right, they're making racist. No. It's because we are not allowed to, normal human people in this country are not allowed to talk about the valid concerns that illegal migration have caused in this country, that then it emboldens it leaves a space for the far right to then take control of that space, whereas we can't.
Well, I don't know if it's far right. I think it's just frustration. I think people are frustrated at the fact that every time they go, excuse me, have I got a question? Go, shut up. You go, I think people are just frustrated. No, I don't think they're far right.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying exactly that, and I'm saying by calling those people far right,
then you make them far right.
Times now, Josh, and we stay with Donald Trump. Apparently, he won't be running again in 2028 if he loses, with the important caveat that his loss is an
I know.
impossibility.
It doesn't make sense, this article at all. Yeah, Donald Trump says he won't run for president again if he loses. But as you say in your link, he's like, I'm not losing.
No.
There's no...
Well, not legitimately.
Yeah,
he does factor in the possibility.
Yeah, well, he doesn't admit that he lost last time.
No.
So he's saying... But he said, I'm not going to run again, whatever it is. I think you've got a 2-term limit in America anyway, so even if he wins, he can't...
If he wins, he can't
do it. And if he's not... But he would be 82... he's already getting a little bit doddery. Please don't tweet me, all you Trump people. And it's interesting that he's sort of saying that. I guess partly because he wouldn't want to run again is because he would then maybe go to jail in the meantime. So then there's no point him.
There's no
running.
danger of him running again, I don't think, at this point.
No, but I didn't realise. I know you could say. I thought it was consecutive terms that you can.
Well, I've never seen it in print, but I mean, it'd be a very unusual... If he does win, I don't think there's been another one for a very long time. I think early days, one of them had a term and then there was a gap and then came back, like Adams or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but not for a very long time. Roosevelt famously took 4 terms, didn't he, and then died quite early on through the 4th term, having concealed illness of all kinds of infirmity from the American people. That was when they brought the legislation in.
Yeah, so it's good. But the interesting thing is, of course, here is who is then going to take over the Republican Party? Is it going to be another MAGA-type person, or is it going to be a sort of less controversial
It's going to be like Jeremy Corbyn handing over to one of his 4 acolytes. Oh.
But does it not automatically become J.D. Vance or not? No?
No, not in terms of leadership.
Oh, if he was to win, and then
for instance, so if he wins,
that's the presumption.
And then
usually,
would he not run for a second term because he can't?
No, because that wasn't because Biden was the VP to Obama, wasn't he? But Hillary Clinton, nevertheless, was
yeah.
We've hit the halfway point. Coming up, we have the court of mum and dad, sweary Kamala, and the dangers of the vanity snap. See you in a couple of minutes.
Thanks for joining me for your latest weather updates from the Met Office here on GB News. It's been another very wet day, but the rain will at least be easing from many areas overnight and generally a much drier day tomorrow, although there will still be some rain across Scotland. Scotland and Northern Ireland have been largely dry today. It's been across England and Wales where we've had the heavy and persistent rain from this area of low pressure. Still, Met Office yellow weather warning remains in place as that rain does start to ease from central parts, but staying pretty soggy across eastern England well into the night. Drier elsewhere, but we will see some rain just creeping into northern Scotland. Temperatures in Scotland with some clearer skies, dipping to single figures, but most staying in double digits. On to Tuesday, overall a much drier day, particularly where we've seen the heavy and persistent rain today over these central areas. It will be a wetter day, though, in northern Scotland, and with the wind coming in from the northeast, feeling pretty cool as that rain sets in across the Moray Firth in particular. A few scattered showers coming into Northern Ireland during the morning, and the odd one over northern England too, and the remnants of today's rain still clinging to the coasts around East Anglia and Kent. But generally speaking, across England and Wales, a much drier day, thankfully, compared to today. The rain will keep going across northeastern Scotland. If you see a few more showers coming into southeast Scotland and across northern England and North Wales too. Across the Midlands, southern England, quite a bit of cloud, but some bright spells coming through. A bit of sunshine in Northern Ireland is possible also. On the cool side, temperatures struggling up into the low teens across the north, maybe high teens further south. A chilly start to Wednesday, by and large a dry start, but we will see more rain creeping in from the southwest as the day goes on. Some showers in northern Scotland, but many areas dry and bright for much of the morning until this next area of rain comes in, and that is a sign of things to come for much of this week before things then turn colder towards the end of the week.
The king of breakfast TV is back. That's right, Britain's favourite TV host, Eamon Holmes, returns to Britain's hottest breakfast programme. Breakfast every day from 6 a.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliners. So, point of information from one of our online fans. Grover Cleveland, the only US president so far to serve 2 non-consecutive terms towards the end of the 19th century. Moving on, Jojo, shocking outbreak of common sense in law enforcement circles, reported in Tuesday's Telegraph.
Yes, so teenage rioter was so sternly told off by his own parents that authorities chose not to prosecute. Probably didn't want to get it on the wrong side of the parents either. I've dropped my pen. So yes, a 14-year-old rioter was told off so sternly by his parents that the authorities chose not to take further action against him because they don't really, they don't want to be criminalising children, and
No.
they want to find better ways in order to not have children be disruptive. But I mean, you just know a mother's look particularly is enough to.
Well, if it's well directed. Interestingly, in the story, it said that on many occasions they encountered families that seemed to regard it as intrusive of the law to get involved, that their kids had just been going out, you know, having a bit of a laugh.
Or also that the families have taken the kids out. There's that one photo of a guy at one of the riots carrying a baby.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, the story in the news about the mother and daughter that have been jailed because they'd been taking the dog for a walk and then suddenly decided to jump on cars. But you can get easily
caught up in these things.
But conversely to the parents of the 14-year-olds are marching him down to the police station and furious with him. Another defendant, a 12-year-old boy, hit the headlines because his mother chose to fly to Ibiza the day before he was meant to be in court. So, you know, there's the yin and yang of parenting.
Yeah.
But what I find hilarious is that she's been ordered to pay £1,200 compensation, which I bet she regrets going to Ibiza now, and go on a parenting course, which I think the parenting course should be run by these parents of my 14-year-old.
Nice
I mean,
idea.
So, yeah,
absolutely.
You could get a little system.
Although it
going.
could be a great double bluff, couldn't it? Marching in, right, we're going to take you down the station. Yep.
Yeah, I know. Maybe that's it. Yes, we'll deal with them. Oh, go to your room and shut up.
What this article is this guy, Mr. Parkinson, who's basically he's director of public prosecutions, and he's been very pleased with himself because they shut down the riots and the far right, and the reality was, of course, there's a far right element to it, absolutely, but there was a somewhat of a mirage there as well. And so he's sort of going, we stepped up and we did the quick sentencing and that shut everything out. It's like, no, it was people who were very upset, rightly so, with the murder of these children. And far-right people latching onto that, and other people, because people have not felt heard on this issue. And the idea that he shut it down, I think, is a real mistake to be going out with that kind of mentality, because that sentiment is still there.
Well, if it getting back to what we were saying, and if it's example that it is sort of families and people walking their dog, then that doesn't fall into far right, you know, sort of thugs and rioters.
I think also it was, and this is like a traditional view of riots, but it was phenomenally hot as well. People's tempers get a lot shorter when the temperature goes over 30 in this country, you know, and
people get carried away. I mean, people do when they are. It's like any kind of group thinking or herd mentality. When you were groups of people and getting sort of slightly
Not
giddy.
me, Jojo.
Oh,
First people to go.
Come on, we've all jumped on a car.
First people to go to prison were a gay couple who'd been at bingo, who were drunk and walking past. They were the first people to go to prison for this.
That's very unfortunate.
It is indeed. Don't do bingo. Daytime bingo. That's the motto.
Poor old bingo is struggling enough as it is. Doesn't need that kind of publicity. Another example of the Met arresting people for their own good, Josh. But are they grateful? No, they're not, are they?
No, indeed. This is a crazy story. Christian preacher wins second 10K payout from Met Police after she was wrongly arrested when she was surrounded by a mob chanting Allahu Akbar at Speaker's Corner. So this story is kind of insane. And actually, it happened a couple of years ago, the incident itself. And it's a sort of a microcosm of what we've seen over the last year with the pro-Palestinian marchers, or, you know, peace marchers on one side, if you want to call them, or hate marchers, or the other people want to call them. But the fact was that she was arrested. She spent the night in a cell, questioned till 4 a.m. All of this, and she had done nothing wrong. And at Speaker's Corner, which is the kind of the bastion of free, the front line of free speech in this country, there has been a real problem for years now with Islamists dominating that space. And someone came on, Andrew Doyle, so the guy who runs Free Speech Court, that area, and talks about it, how the police don't get active. All they're concerned about is maintaining the peace. And in this case, it was, this woman's been stabbed before. They've arrested, the police have arrested her a bunch of times. It's like I say, the second time she's been awarded £10,000.
It might be worth mentioning, it says she's a Christian, which she is, but she's...
former Muslim.
Former Muslim, yeah. Turkish, I think?
Turkish, yes.
Yes, and so she denounced it, and it all started when she had her copy of the Quran snatched from her and stolen or something. She was complaining about that. So she obviously uses a copy of the Quran
she uses it
to denounce it.
Which she has deliberately put holes into the copy of the Quran because the Islamic faith, she claims, has got holes in it. And so that has been stolen
So
off
that's
her.
been provocative.
Well,
that's her right.
Yes, absolutely. And also, so she's now defend Christ, critique Islam.
Yeah.
And that is everyone's right. And I think I was actually really shocked and terrified by this in terms of that real sense of oppression that is at Speaker's Corner. And that's not about having freedom of choice. It's not about free speech. It's about oppression and trying to...
It's a mob, yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Because it never used to be. I remember going there in the 80s and 90s. It used to be just old eccentrics, wasn't it?
And she hasn't committed any crime.
No.
And they know that she hasn't, and they keep, whilst not in any way dealing with the other faction, which is
the Islamists. But we've seen this, unfortunately, at these at the peace marches. Yeah. For the radio people, I just did inverted commas there.
Yeah.
And we've seen this Iranian, he's been arrested multiple times for holding up a sign that says Hamas are terrorists. Now, that is a fact. Robert Jenrick was running the other day and pictured wearing that on his T-shirt. Is he going to be arrested or whatever? And it's just, this is the two-tier policing that everyone talks about, that supposedly you're right-wing if you dare to mention it.
But also being arrested for wearing a Charlie Hebdo T-shirt.
Yeah, well, we do not have blasphemy laws.
We are moving on, I'm afraid. Tempting to introduce this Telegraph story with a career-ending slew of obscenities, but I will leave that up to you.
Oh, ask a Scottish woman to talk about swearing. Are you mad? So this is Kamala Harris on track to be the sweariest president in US history. And, yeah, there are several clips of her saying... Obviously, I can't tell you what she said because...
There was one where she used the F-word in quite surprising circumstances, wasn't it? About
kicking down the effing door.
Kicking down a door, yes, which I remember seeing that clip. And
it does enhance the sentence. It makes it much... And I think that was the point that was made. It made it much more...
Fortifies it, doesn't it?
Oh, that makes it a little bit more interesting.
Is she really the sweariest in history, though? There must have been some in the past who used...
It's a new phenomenon, though, that's it.
I guess online swearing is. I mean, like televised swearing.
Exactly, on Twitter. Whilst they talks about how Nixon and
I mean, if I was
did in real life,
Nixon, LBJ, I bet he was very swearing.
Oh, but not in public, and that's what's going on now.
And I think there was some sort of discovery of George Bush had maybe said something off air that had been heard and sort of got hauled up for.
And it was a
George Bush. Yeah,
are we allowed to say that as that gets Ofcom?
Appalling.
Yeah, I know.
Appalling.
That's a big
what trying to do?
Trump uses vulgarities rather than swearing. Doesn't he, a bit? But he's not using them
quite a lot.
But not behind his podium, not when he's making a speech.
No.
To young entrepreneurs or whatever.
But I've always loved this thing with swearing, and I think it's something that, because some people are sensitive to that type of language, but I always think it's, don't swear in front of the lady. Yeah, quite often people, sorry for swearing in front of me, or in front of the children, and particularly children, you go, you know what they listen to. I mean, the language from children is far worse than some of the swear words I know, and I know a lot.
My kid, and I went mental.
But
is she doing it for effect? That is the idea. She's doing it to be cool, which there's also some makes the point that we don't do it in UK politics, which is interesting.
So far.
Hopefully, it's a tradition that won't. I don't know. I like swearing.
I don't know. I think does Mr. Farage not like a bit of the old sweary swears?
Not on this channel.
Okay.
Josh, the Telegraph have an explainer why vanity photographers are a problem for the MPs. I think the clue is in the title.
Yeah, well, this is going to kick off to be a pretty big story, I think, if the right-wing press have their say, which they usually do. Angela Rayner drinking whiskey through a straw, and other images taken by £68,000 Vanity photographer. And you know what? It's upsetting because it's hypocritical. Of course, they've unearthed a tweet of her saying, why has Boris Johnson got a photographer, you know, this from a couple of years ago, like on his Vanity. So she's, of course, doing exactly the same thing. They're trying to pretend, or they're trying to say that, oh, no, he's a department photographer and all of that. But it is hypocrisy. It is a waste, arguably, of taxpayers' money. And there are implications in terms of what it means for press freedom, because they use these photographers because they have control over those images that then go out, and they don't invite the press photographers to these events because they don't want to look like idiots, like what happened with Ed Miliband eating the bacon sandwich. And since then, Labour and all parties have been very scared of.
Oh, do you think that was it? Do you think that was?
Well, I think that's part of showing the dangers of just what the clip.
Do you think a good Vanity photographer could have made Ed Miliband look like he was of kind of great, like
no one could be paid that much.
Third Dan expert at eating bacon sandwich.
Having a Vanity photographer doesn't stop other people from taking photographs of them and then being...
But it does if they haven't been invited, if they just don't know whether the thing is
I see what you mean, right, OK.
But that's really risky, because that runs the risk that the papers will just go, well, we're not going to talk about it if you're not going to invite us and allow us to sort of witness it.
Our papers still have to fill up their space. And we still have to fill up our space with the paper space.
But again, you're right, Josh, it's the hypocrisy, and it's like, you know, it's blatant hypocrisy. It's like, how can... You must have known you've said that,
and
so why
Rayner in particular, there's just so many tweets.
Yeah, exactly.
Delete your Twitter.
You won't catch me in precisely 3.5 years'
But that's what worries me, that somebody doesn't actually remember that they've said that, because...
The judgment.
So it makes you wonder whether she actually believes it or not, or she just says what she thinks in the moment, because...
What are politicians saying? What they...
No, I know. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember you've lied.
In the final section, we have the Brits still suppressing their feelings, Liverpool toys... Liverpool toy?
Sorry?
I don't know what word is supposed to be there. Toy, with pricing themselves out of the tourist buck, and waste not, want not is not wanted. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
And feelings of stress and anxiety tend to be quite normal for a lot of kids. And if it's normal for the kids, then it affects the parents as well.
Well, it seems that our canine friends could be the cure, after new research by the University of Bristol found that dogs are incredibly sensitive to their owners' emotions.
OK, how do we cheat into this? How can your doggy help your family handle stress during this time of the year? Let's go to the Director of Canine Affairs at Guide Dogs UK, Tim Stafford. Tim, we're talking about this as if it's a big revelation, but obviously, you know, a man like yourself, you're well used to this, and you can see when a dog is reacting. What form would that reaction take, do you think?
Yeah, you know what? It's nice when the science kind of confirms what most of us have known for a very long time. Our dogs become members of our family, and they come very, very close to us. So it's no surprise that anything that goes on in the family is going to be detected and picked up by the dog. That can be changes in behaviours. It can certainly be the dogs watching our behaviours and starting to mirror those behaviours. But what this research says is that the dogs can actually smell our emotions. It's not just that they're responding to our behaviour changes, they're responding to our physiological changes as well, because we smell differently when we start to get anxious. So at this time, there's lots of changes in a lot of families' lives. Kids are going back to school, young people are going to university, parents are having to deal with all of the emotions attached to that. So it's no surprise that our dogs start to detect that too.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliner. So we start with those ambitious fiscal plans from Liverpool, Jojo, reported in The Telegraph.
Yes, Liverpool crying out. Oh, see what they did there. For a tourist tax to tackle deprivation. This has been done quite a lot of places. I remember in Tenerife they have a tourist tax and things. It's kind of a popular.
So what places you want to go to?
Yeah, Edinburgh are talking about introducing it next year in the festival tourist tax.
Places you want to go to.
Labour run. Oh, are you saying that? Oh, you're rotten. Honestly,
Well, I actually genuinely do love Liverpool, but that's because I've got one of my best mates there. So when I get to go, but I don't know if I want to pay £1.30.
Well, Labour-run Liverpool has called for a tourist tax on visitors to tackle deprivation among residents. So the council leader, Liam Robertson, said the port city was crying out for a European-style levy on visitors during an event at the Labour Party conference being held there. So, yes, so they're having their Labour Party conference there.
Right.
And they want anybody that wants to go to Liverpool to pay more to go to Liverpool to be there.
I mean, the idea of a tourist tax suggests that otherwise tourists don't pay any tax, which is not quite true, is it? Anytime you go into a cafe as a tourist or stay at a hotel, you're paying VAT on everything.
Well, what they should do is what they do in Edinburgh or anywhere else where something suddenly happens, they hike the prices up, then if you go to Liverpool, just stick an extra quid on the pint.
Surge pricing, and then you get the VAT on that. Surge taxing as well.
Surge taxing. So, yeah, sort of like stealth tourists.
But that's got to be the calculation, isn't it? If as a tourist, if you've got 1,000 tourists a year, let's say, and you put on a tourist tax, and now you've only got 900 tourists a year, and they're spending an extra 10%. It's roughly the same, I suppose, but do you know what I mean?
It's like Liverpool city centre, you've got all the Beatles stuff.
Yeah.
You've got the marina.
Beatles at Liverpool?
You've got the marina.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, exactly. You've got the marina, which is pretty cool. I mean, I've spent many weekends in Liverpool and had a nice time. But the idea that it's...
You're changing your tune.
No, but the idea that it's like, the places that normally have this are Rome, Barcelona...
and the Canary Islands.
And it just is... It seems somewhat amusing to me that Liverpool is going...
Well, the very fact that they're saying we need to raise some money to deal with the extreme deprivation...
With the poorest city in England.
That sounds like an interesting tourist offer.
Unless it's a tour of the deprivation.
Oh, now that's a good plan.
Yeah.
Daily Mail now, Josh. They have a story about one of the most tiresome manifestations of urban philanthropy.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Councils urged to go soft on middle-class fly tippers after residents handed fines for leaving items out in the street. So this is what's called free cycling, and you've got your little WhatsApp groups in your local area going, I'm just putting out my cabinet, or whatever it is. In this case, it was a cabinet. They got a £500 fine for leaving out this IKEA cabinet, and...
you could buy a new one for that.
You could buy IKEA. So this is... But really what this is councils trying to get as much money as possible and being...
Is it not them trying to keep the pavements clean? I actually do bristle a little bit when people leave furniture in the middle of the pavement. You're right for the nimble likes of you and me. Some people on the mobility scooters or with the push, the prams and whatever.
Well, look, if you're leaving a sofa, but if you're leaving like a toy or a
do you think there should be a standard size? I think things left on the wall is fine.
Okay,
left on your own wall or in your own park.
What about in the gate
shop?
Yeah, it's not hard. Or even to the dump where they actually have a shop there.
That's the whole point. If you want something to be picked up because someone else can get use out of it, take it to a place where someone would know. I don't know to go to number 33's wall on,
But it's hard work, isn't it? They're just hoping
they're lazy.
But anyway, this is a 9-page guidance form that's saying, go easy on the guy.
We have 1 minute.
Let's not go easy on them. Pay for the uplift.
All right.
Or take it to the charity shop.
We have 1 moment to go. News from Sweden now about snowplough priorities that I sense might be slightly academic for Brits.
Go, Jojo.
So, yes, council should prioritise women by clearing snow from pavements first. Because apparently women walk more and men drive more, so women have more accidents due to snow from walking on uncleared pavements, which...
Especially if they're cluttered up with furniture and...
Or drunk, exactly, if you can't get past the IKEA bookcase.
I'll just walk past this snowdrift. Oh, no, it's solid.
And you can't see it because it's white. So it is... yeah, again, how do they do these studies and how do they find out that more men drive and more women walk? And again...
Maybe in Sweden it's a more old fact. Well, actually, it's not, is it? That's the interesting thing. Sweden is a very free society in which both genders have reverted to their emotional... This is why 80% of nurses are women and 80% of engineers are men. Yeah, because they have enormous freedom.
But if they don't do the roads, all the blokes are going to run over all the women on the pavement.
That's it, yeah.
Only because they're dreadful drivers.
Well, that's about all we have time for. Sadly, we didn't get onto the new dating trend, which is for book nooks. But maybe we can do that tomorrow. For our bookish viewers, the show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Tuesday's front pages. We have the Telegraph. Light at the end of the tunnel, PM tells Britain, and snappily dressed Lord Ali there. Mail, union boss will seize control of UK economy, the commanding heights. Guardian, PM vows to end gloom as Labour seeks to lift spending restrictions. The Sun, Nick's strictly SOS. The Times, Labour to crack down on benefit fraudsters. And finally, The Star, it's Booty McBootface. Those were your front pages. That's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Josh Howie and Jojo Sutherland. We're back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Andrew Doyle in the big seat, Kerry Marks and Scott Capurro, his guest. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Otherwise, thank you very much for your company. Thank you for those who alerted me to the president thing. Cheers. Good night.